Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. How are you guys doing? And welcome to another episode where we're looking at the names and the attributes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And this is the fourth episode where we'll be exploring some of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's most common names in the Quran and the Sunnah. And we spoke about the main hadith, which really everything goes back to in terms of this discussion, this discourse, which is that the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam told us that Allah is 99 names. وَمَنْ أَحْصَاهَا دَخَلَ الْجَنَّةِ. Whoever is able to do ihsa of it, and this word will translate in a second, he goes to heaven. Now ihsa really includes memorizing it, acting by it, living by it, and so on and so forth. And of course, 99, we've said it's not really the upper limit in terms of how many names and attributes belong to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah has even more than that. But if you, of those names that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has, just memorize 99 of them and live by them, then that will be enough, inshallah, for you to go to Jannah. Now, last week we spoke about some names, and I think we stopped at As-Salam. So today, inshallah, we're going to be breaking the groups into two. And the first group here on the left is going to be doing the following names: Al-Ali and Al-Aziz. Sorry, Al-A'la as well. Al-Aziz, Al-Qawi, and Al-Mateen. So is that five, yeah? I'm just giving you. Okay, and the other group here: Al-Jabbar, Al-Mutakabbir, Al-Khaliq, Al-Bari', Al-Musawwir. And that will be that. We'll have 10 to 15 minutes to confer, inshallah, and then we'll come back and feedback. Alright, let's feedback, inshallah. Group 1, what names did you have and what kind of meanings did you have for that?
Yeah, I'll start. So the two names that I'm going to speak about are the names Al-Ali and Al-A'la. So Al-Ali means the high, whereas Al-A'la in the Arabic language is on the same scale as Al-Af'al, which means the most high. Now the general difference between the two names are that Al-Ali means that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is high regardless of the existence of anyone he is higher than. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is high in all aspects. He's high in his essence, his power, his strength. Whereas Al-A'la entails that he is higher than everything in existence. And I think it's worthy to mention that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala asks us to call him while we are in the lowest, most humble point, which is sujood, prostration. He asks us to call him Subhana Rabbi al-A'la, glorified be to the Most High. And this teaches us a type of humility whereby we, in the dunya, which in the Arabic language means something lowly, we are in a low place, in the lowest place, and we are calling out to the Most High. And this teaches a type of humility to the human being. I think it should go without saying that there has been a difference of opinion between the scholars as to the literal meaning of Allah's highness. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, Ar-Rahmanu ala al-Arsh istawa, the most merciful ascended above the throne. And obviously there are generally two main camps within Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah, or there might be some controversy there, whereby you have the Salafi school, which believes that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you can ascribe directionality to Allah. Allah is above us in the literal sense, and the Ash'ari school who go towards the more metaphorical sense. And obviously there's a big spectrum. You know, you have some people on the more extreme side of that spectrum. It's been narrated that the likes of Bishr al-Marisi who used to say in sujood, Subhana Rabbi al-Asfal, glory be to Allah the most low.
Bishr al-Marisi is Mu'tazili, right?
He's a Mu'tazili, yeah. So you have obviously extreme, people on the extreme side of the spectrum who believe that there is no difference whether you call Allah the most high or the most low. Allah is, both.
And of course, in one sense, Ibn Taymiyyah mentions that there's a wider view of Ahl Sunnah, which actually he says includes the Mu'tazilis. And then there's a stricter view, which of course he says is only Ahl Hadith, Ahl Athar and Salaf and so on. So you said it goes, there's a bit of controversy, but even you could use the term Ahl Sunnah in different contexts for everyone that's watching, because we don't want no refutation today. But the point is, of course, you're right in the sense that these are the positions that the Muslim people have held. That is Allah above the throne, with his essence and so on. Of course, the Hanbali opinion, we would argue, the opinion of the Athar, the opinion of the majority of people in the beginning of early Islam, is that yes, they did take that opinion. And then with the development of the Ash'ari school and Maturidi schools and so on, the answer started to become a little bit more varied. And of course, what they say, in I would say, is not incorrect in a sense. When they say "Laysa lahu makan wa zaman," that Allah does not have a place or time. That what they mean by that is Allah is not confined by time or space, and that is true. So in a sense, there isn't that much controversy. I think in Tadmuriyya and other places, you'll find Ibn Taymiyyah agreeing with, if it means tahayyuz, if it means constriction and so on, then we don't believe in Allah is confined in time or space. So this is an important thing, and I like the spiritual element. What other names do we have?
We have Al-Aziz.
Yes.
Al-Aziz is the one to whom belongs might and honor in its entirety. And what I found interesting when I was reading is that he is never humiliated, nor is he ever wronged. And I found it interesting because a Muslim might think that when they sin against Allah, they are wronging Allah, or they are possibly humiliating Allah. But in fact, they are humiliating themselves. And, they're only doing wrong on themselves when they sin. Al-Aziz is also the one who is victorious and is never vanquished. It's usually coupled with Al-Qawi and Al-Mateen, and it's taken from the word Izzah, which means honor and nobility. And he cannot be overcome, but rather he's the overcomer. He overcomes.
And this is a very important distinction to make between, because we said that there are some names of Allah which there's, if you like, qadr mushtarak, there's some kind of linguistic flesh that joins what we should be and what Allah is, in different ways, of course. يعني ليس كمثله شيء. Allah, there's nothing like him at all. وهو السميع البصير, and he is all hearing, all hearing, all seeing. But the point about Izzah is very important, because there are verses of the Quran instructing Muslims to be mu'taz, someone who has Izzah, possesses of Izzah. And there's a difference between واحد is mu'taz, or has اعتزاز بنفسه, or has some kind of self-respect, self-dignity, because that's what it would really be, a kind of self-respect, versus someone who's mutakabbir. And there is a fine line there. So for example, someone who deprecates themselves, abases themselves, is somebody who is not what Islam is praising. For example, the very famous ayah in Surah Al-Ma'idah, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, يَا أَيُّهَا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا مَن يَرْتَدَّ مِنكُمْ عَنْ دِينِهِ فَسَوْفَ يَأْتِي اللَّهُ بِقَوْمٍ يُحِبُّهُمْ وَيُحِبُّونَهُ أَذِلَّةٍ عَلَى الْمُؤْمِنِينَ أَعِزَّةٍ عَلَى الْكَافِرِينَ يُجَاهِدُونَ فِي سَبِيلِ اللَّهِ وَلَا يَخَافُونَ لَوْمَةَ لَائِمٍ. Very important ayah is that, oh, you who believe, if you turn back on your heels, meaning become murtad, apostates, after you have become believers, then Allah will replace you. He will replace you with a people. Number one, أذلة على المؤمنين, they are humble with the believers. أعزة على الكافرين, that they are mighty with the disbelievers. Now this is come under some scrutiny, we'll come to it in a second. يجاهدون في سبيل الله, they struggle in the path of Allah. ولا يخافون لومة لائم, and they do not fear the blame of the blamers. The one who gives them blame, they don't care about that person. Yani, this is very interesting and important. And there's obviously the verse in Surah Muhammad, أعزاء الكفار رحماء بينهم, that they are أعزاء على الكفار, mighty with the disbelievers and merciful between themselves. It would seem to me that this is the general rule. Some people now, they make this into the exception, but this is actually the general rule. Meaning, it's not, when you're mighty, it does not mean you're oppressive. It does not mean you are rough, aggressive. Doesn't mean. Being mighty simply means you establish clear boundaries. Number one. You're strong. You have self-respect. You're not self-deprecating. Which is why, once again, humility, if taken to an extreme, can actually lead to humiliation, because it doesn't become humility anymore. And this is something beautiful that I heard, and I'll never forget the first time I heard this. I memorized it just because I liked it so much, which is that Ibn Abbas came to Umar ibn Khattab, and I've probably mentioned this to you before, and he said to him, what does it take to be a leader? He said, what does it take to be a leader? He says, لا يحمل هذا الأمر. You cannot be a leader إلا القوي في غير ضعف. except for the strong one in other than weakness. القوي في اللين في غير ضعف. The lenient one in other than weakness. So number one, be lenient. Yes, be lenient to people. Be respectful, be lenient, be nice, be kind, but don't be weak. There's a virtue that lies in between the two parameters. وَالْقَوِيُّ فِي غَيْرِ عُنْفٍ. And the strong one in other than aggression. Yani be strong, be assertive, but don't be aggressive. وَالْجَوَادُ فِي غَيْرِ إِسْرَافٍ. And the one who is generous person, you give money to people, this one there, give this one a gift, But you're not extravagant. Yeah, you're not wasting money. You're giving. وَالْمُمْسِكْ فِي غَيْرِ بُخْلٍ. And the one who he saves money, he's holding back, but he's not
Wisely.
he's not miserly or stingy or something, you see. So the point is that this is like Nicomachean ethics. This is virtue. This is where the virtue is, somewhere in the middle, like what Aristotle was talking about, the virtue ethics and so on. And what we're saying is that the asl with the disbeliever is might. Yes, and this is what Allah says in the Quran. I don't see that it's mukhassis. This is da'am. Which means that if you're living in a non-Muslim society, the main thing that should be protected is the dignity and the honor of the Muslim people, the izzah of the Muslim people. Now, you would think, like living here and listening to some explanation of these verses by some people, that this is an exception. This is in jihad or something. Also, it doesn't say that though. I want to know where it says this is an exception, which means you have to establish yourself. Yes. Oh, fine. Sorry, I thought you had a question. So that's Aziz. Any other thing with Aziz? So yeah, there's a difference. And I made reference to this book before, and I'll make reference to it again when I was reading this book called The Narcissist Test. I think I made reference to it, I told you. And he said there's on the two spectrums, you have someone who's an egoist and you have someone who's a fully fledged narcissist. And in the middle you have someone who has enough self-importance. Because he says that narcissism is a scale of self-importance. He says enough self-importance, but he's not deluded by that. So it becomes whatever. So self-deprecation and abasement is not Islamic. Someone who's, oh brother, this and that humble, it's weakness. So there's a beautiful middle ground. There's people that go too much in this way that need to come here, like myself. But there's some people on this side that need to come here. Okay, so what's the next name we've got here? Have you got two more names here?
Yeah, we go Al-Qawi and we go Al-Mateen.
Okay.
Al-Qawi means the strong, the powerful. His strength is supreme, unlimited, and inexhaustible.
Yes.
Before him, the strength of anything or anyone is insignificant, and so does the greatness of anyone held as great. So he also says that he affects everything, yet nothing can affect him. Al-Mateen stands for the firm, the steadfast. Al-Mateen is the one who, in addition to his unconquerable power, his nature is to be firm. This combination of possession of the strength of the perfect strength and complete firmness of nature means no one can ever object to his actions or prevent his orders from being carried out. So the difference between the two would be, even though they often group together for being to have a similar meaning, the distinction is that Al-Qawi refers to Allah's great strength. He possesses the perfect power, whereas Al-Mateen refers to his extension.
Yes.
To the extension of his strength.
Yes.
But focuses on the intensity.
Beautiful, excellent. I think that's a very nice answer. That's right. So just to summarize that last bit, the Qawi is talking about the strength of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and the power, but Al-Mateen is talking about how that expands Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. His strength is encompassing of the creation, for example.
So when, for instance, it's paired with the name such as Razak, it would mean something like his provision is firm.
Yeah.
If it's paired with the name Al-Qawi, in this case, it would mean that his strength is firm.
Beautiful. And when you think about what Allah we just mentioned here, connecting it with provision of Allah, ما خلقت الجن والإنس إلا ليعبدون ما أريد منهم من رزق وما أريد أن يطعمون الله إن الله هو القوي ذو القوة المتين. So this is the قوي ذو القوة المتين, that Allah is the strong one that has mateen strength. So it's he just said that in the context of I'm the one who provides. I'm the one who provides you, and then he's got the quwwah al-mateen. It's not just specific strength, it's very widespread and encompassing strength as well. And what's really interesting is that yes, this is one of the sifat of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala which we should implement as much as we can. The Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam said in a very famous hadith, but if people don't read the hadith to the end, this is a very powerful hadith, yeah? Al-mu'min al-qawi khayrun wa ahab ila Allah min al-mu'min al-da'if wa fi kullin khayr. So let's just translate this. But the strong believer is better and more beloved to Allah than the weak believer, and in both of them there is good, yeah? So what's the advice? Because now we're saying, okay, we want to be strong believers. Now there's YouTube channels and Instagram pages and people doing pull-ups and talking strong believers. Okay, no problem. It's all good, I'm for it. But the Prophet ﷺ gives us advice on how to be strong believers. So watch out what he said. احرص على ما ينفعك. Number one, which is beware of that which benefits you. Try and do that which benefits you. And the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ used to make dua, Allahumma inni as'aluka ilman nafi'a wa rizqan tayyiban wa amalan mutaqabbala. Ilman nafi'a, that he wants the beneficial knowledge. Rizqan tayyiba, good provision, wa amalan mutaqabbala. But so that's the first thing. احرص على ما ينفعك واستعن بالله. Yeah. And the second thing is seek refuge in Allah. So to be strong, you need number one. احرص على ما ينفعك. So beware of those things which are beneficial for you. If it's good for your body, your mind, your soul, for your family, for your community, do it. Have a program for yourself. This is how you be strong. You want to be strong. Number one, follow the prophetic advice. Have a program for yourself. احرص على ما ينفعك. Don't do things which are frivolous. Don't do things which they have no end goal. Do things which are beneficial. وَاسْتَعِنْ بِاللَّهِ. And also seek refuge in Allah. Meaning, have tawakkul in God. Have this, if you really believe in God, you should have reliance in God. Yeah? وَلَا تَعْجِزْ عَلَى مَا أَصَابَكَ. This is very important. And don't give up. Don't quit when things get bad, basically. وَلَا تَعْجِزْ عَلَى مَا أَصَابَكَ. Do not panic when things get bad. Ta'jiz, you become incapacitated, you're panicking because of some calamity, some trauma that happened in your life. Don't do that. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives us this meaning in many different parts of the Quran. وَلَا تَعْجِزْ عَلَى مَا أَصَابَكَ. So many verses in the Quran about that. Like I don't even know where to start really. But a good one is إن الإنسان خلق هلوعا إذا مسه الشر جزوعا وإذا مسه الخير منوعا إلى المصلين. Like for example, the human being is created, Allah says, in a state of anxiety. That when evil touches him, he panics. And when good comes to him, he tries to keep it all for himself, except for the ones who pray regularly and so on. Yeah, إلا المصلين, and the verses that we know. So basically here, these are three pieces of advice. And then the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ continues in giving us advice on how to be strong and so how to be good. He says, وَلَا تَقُلْ. Do not say, لَوْ أَنِّي فَعَلْتُ كَذَا وَكَذَا. If only I had done such and such a thing. Don't be one of those personalities that regrets everything they didn't do in their life. The only thing you should really regret are your sins. Honestly. If you regret, that's the only thing you need to regret. Everything else, khalas. That gives you a kind of liberation. Oh, I should have done this. I should have invested here. I should have married that. I should have... what am I going to do? Me regretting something is not going to make things better. It's not. It's not going to... It's actually a burden on me. It's not useful to me. It's unpragmatic from every perspective. Oh, I wish I had done this. And I wish I had done that. And I wish I had done that. Just get started now. The only thing you should regret is sins, because as we've said when we were talking about Tawab, one of the conditions of Tawbah is nadam and regretting something. You have to regret the sin, to repent to Allah. But apart from that, you don't need to regret anything. Everything, he says, وَلَا تَقُلْ لَوْ أَنِّي فَعَلْتُ كَذَا وَكَذَا. وَقُلْ, instead say, قَدَّرَ اللَّهُ وَمَا شَاءَ فَعَلْ. That Allah has preordained this matter, and what He wanted came to pass. Because this is, if you start saying regretting and stuff like that, this is a pathway for the devil for you. So what I'm saying is that if you want to be a strong believer, this is the prophetic template on how to do it. We have to have a good plan in place for our lives, which means that we're doing ihris ala ma yafa'uk, doing that which is beneficial to us. We have to have good spirituality, which is tawakkul ala Allah and so on. And we have to build mental resilience. That's what the Prophet told us. Build mental resilience. And how to do it? إِنَّمَا الْعِلْمُ بِالتَّعَلُّمُ وَالْحِلْمُ بِالتَّحَلُّمُ. That certainly that if you want to learn, that you have to seek knowledge. If you want to be forbearing, then you have to put yourself in the difficult situation. Some scholars say about hadith. Put yourself in a difficult situation and manage. Put yourself in an uncomfortable situation and manage that one. So it's al-hilm bit-tahallum. Being forbearing, yes, bit-tahallum. وَمَن يَتَصَبَّرْ يُصَبِّرُهُ اللَّهُ. Hadith in Sahih Muslim. Whoever seeks patience and resilience from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Allah will make him more resilient. So you put yourself in a situation where you can do more of that. So this is the prophetic template. Have we finished all the names here? Yeah. So okay, group 2.
Yeah, Khalid. Jabbar.
Which one?
It's you.
Sorry, bro. No, mine's Al-Musawwir.
Yeah.
Is the bestower of forms. The one who created all that is in existence and originated it, who made everything correct and in its place, in accordance to the dictates of his wisdom, who shaped everything by the virtue of his praise and wisdom. He continues doing so. And with this, basically, if we think about it, we live in a time where people are constantly trying to change the form that Allah willed in the first place, like cosmetic surgery, people changing their faces, their noses, etc., etc. And it's going against the will of what Allah formed you in the beginning. And if we all looked like Prophet Yusuf, we don't have his patience and his resistance to temptation, So that's and we also, if we admire the forms of Allah in everything we see, we can see his artistry.
Beautiful.
So that's what I got from this.
I mean, I like the way you just said that. And the artistry of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And as part of my PhD, actually, I was looking at something recently, and you might think what's this got to do? Because obviously I'm doing a contingency argument and so on, yeah. But it's a really interesting thing that Leibniz, his contingency, Leibniz had a contingency argument. And basically one thing about it is that it's very interesting. Anything that requires an explanation is contingent. Okay, what do you mean by that? If you can explain it, it's contingent. It means something which is contingent, basically, it can't exist by itself. The fact that we have things with forms, there's an explanation for that form. But the necessary existence, there's no explanation for him. Because it doesn't have form like that. He is the one who gives forms to things. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, هو الذي أحسن كل شيء خلقه وبدأ خلق الإنسان من طين. There's two qira'ahs of this actually. There's هو الذي أحسن كل شيء خلقه وبدأ خلق الإنسان من طين. That he is the one who perfected everything, that he created, وبدأ خلق الإنسان من طين, and he started the creation of the human being from clay. And the other one, he's the one who perfected all the creations. So it's his action and his creation itself, the subject and the verb, in two different qira'ahs. The point I'm making is that when you look at Sun'a Allah الذي أتقن كل شيء, Allah says in the Quran, He says that this is the Sun'a Allah. The Sun'a, the I'm not saying manufacturing, but the invention of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is the invented thing, the creation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. الذي أتقن كل شيء. He is the one who perfected everything in creation. He perfected everything. It's incredible how he perfected everything, really. I went to the zoo. It's amazing to see those animals. Allah, to the zoo. Even looking into the sky, you don't need to go to the zoo, just look into the sky. هل ترى من فطور? You see any gaps in the creation? Do you see any, meaning what? We're not talking about black holes and wormholes and these things. Oh, they say, there's black holes and wormholes. What are they? They have a function. Black holes and wormholes have a function. The universe itself, and we say the fine-tuning argument. This is a very interesting segue, where we say that, well, everything is geared for life. That's something nobody can deny. unless someone wants to try and deny that there's life in the universe. So the universe is geared for human existence. لَخَلْقُ السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ أَكْبَرُ مِنْ خَلْقِ النَّاسِ. Allah says in the Quran, the creation of the heavens and the earth is bigger than the creation of the human being. I remember Richard Dawkins, he was in Channel 4 News. You can watch this. And it was that Asian, you know that he shouldn't even be a presenter. It's a very weak presenter. He needs to learn the advice of the Prophet Muhammad about strength. But you know that Asian one, that's a bit of a weasel. Yeah, sorry to say, yani. I don't care about him. Anyway, and he was not being said. I don't, you know, he might be watching this and thinking, why is it? Why? But you know, I'm sorry to say, but he comes across as a weak character for me. I'm not really a big fan of his. But Richard Dawkins was in front of him, yeah, and he was asking Richard Dawkins about you know, his belief in creations and all that. And Richard Dawkins wrote The Blind Watchmaker and The God Delusion, all this kind of thing. And he said to him, look, okay, you're talking about evolution, but what about the universe? He mentioned that. And just watch how Richard Dawkins runs away from the question. Because there is no theory of evolution for the universe. The theory of evolution itself, Richard Dawkins admits, it doesn't even negate God's existence. He admits that. He says, I only use it because some people believe that it's connected to God and so on. I use it strategically. I'm paraphrasing. But the point is that Richard Dawkins was asked directly about the universe itself. Because you can't say it evolved. And the whole book that he wrote, The Blind Watchmaker, all that stuff is irrelevant to the universe. Irrelevant. There is no Darwinian evolution to the universe. No, it's not even proposed as a subject. So why is it like this? Why is it stable, regular, and uniform? Why is it harbor and allow human life to exist? How can you expound on that, explicate that, elaborate upon that, explain that? And Richard Dawkins doesn't have any answer for that. He doesn't. He says, one that we don't know. They're happy to confidently say, I don't know, as if that's an answer. It's not an answer. There must be a reason for this. William Lane Craig says, well, you've got three options. You must have heard the fine-tuning argument, yeah? So look, you've got the gravitational constant, you've got the electromagnetic constant, you've got three options. Either option one is design. Option two is chance. And option three is necessity. And he tries to cancel the two options and says design. When I was at the University of Oxford, I went to this guy called Alistair McGrath. We've got some of his books here somewhere, yeah? And I said to him, I don't know why I'm having a conversation with him after class. I don't know why William Lane Craig made this options. Because really, necessity is not in contradiction to design. And if Allah created something, then it exists by necessity, for example. So you've got two options, really. It's not three options that Craig said. And he agreed. Alistair McGrath agreed. He said, you make a good point. So in other words, we don't have three options. We have two options, which are chance or design. How did the universe come to allow human life to exist, or any life to exist? Chance or design? Type, what is chance? If you say what chance is something happening without reason or cause, we say that doesn't exist. I challenge the idea. Go back to Leibniz. Leibniz says something, yeah? He said all of the laws of logic go back to two things. All of the laws of logic. You can explain everything in the world with two things. He said this. He's a mathematician, in fact. He invented calculus. He's one of the greatest minds the West has ever known. Leibniz. Gottfried Leibniz. Yeah? His name is. He's actually German. He will there. Germany. And you know what he said? He said everything goes back to two things. Something called the law of non-contradiction. Everyone knows, yeah? That, you can't have two things which contradict. And the other thing is the PSR. The principle of sufficient reason. Which basically is the principle that everything has an explanation. Except for, obviously, the necessary existence of everything. Why is this like this? Why is this phone like this? If I can start telling you why this is like this, it's like this because of the forces that put it together and this black and whatever, and there was some manufacturing happening, then this thing has become contingent. This thing is now a possible existence. This thing is something which doesn't need to exist. This thing cannot exist by itself. This thing cannot exist by itself. This thing cannot exist. You cannot exist by yourself. You and I, anything with a form cannot exist by itself. Anything with a form. Any single thing with a form cannot exist by itself. Because the imprint of the form, the tasweer on it, is indication that something has happened to it. I want to know one single example of something with a form that can exist by itself. I'll challenge the world. No one has ever been able to bring it. Since his time, in fact, since way before his time. Anything with a form. When I say what's a form, what's a form? Something which has a shape, something which has a form, something which can be, look at this, color. Anything with a form, there is no, I guarantee you, I challenge the world. Anything with a form, anything with a surah, and I'm not saying the surah, okay, there's a hadith of the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ says that خَلَقَ اللَّهُ Adam ala suratihi, and they say that Allah has a surah. No, not a surah. I'm talking about a surah which is measurable, variable, limited, explainable. Anything with that, khalas. It's an evidence enough for God's existence. And they've never been able to, even this I was going to say a bad word, but this guy, Christopher Hitchens, he admitted himself. Miserable specimen of a man who died a miserable death. That suits his existence. And I don't feel sorry for him when he was balding and he was drinking his drink, and go to hell. And burning in there, inshallah. Maybe he don't know how he died saying the shahada, but I don't know. I don't doubt that. Maybe he said it. But the point is, even Christopher Hitchens himself, he was in the taxi in the back, and the video you can watch it online. He says, I've never seen an answer to the fine-tuning question. Because how is it? He even asked the question, how is it that the proportions were so good that we can live in this thing? Christopher Hitchens, it's your guy, your top guy. He's saying that, and you're confident? And you're confident. You're going to tell me you're confident? Well, your top guy, the most arrogant of them all, he was not confident. You're confident? Allah is the Musawwir. Simple as that. And the surah is an evidence of the Musawwir. The picture or the form is an evidence of the form maker. And the artistry is evidence of the artist. Simple as this. Simple as this. And at the end of the day, it's beautiful how Allah created us, that we can see different colors and different things, and we can appreciate beauty, and we can appreciate the aesthetics, and we can, it's Allahu Akbar. What kind of a world would it have been if there's no shapes, and there's no colors, and there was no smells, and there was no fragrances, and there was no tastes, and there was no different people and hearing? What kind of a world would it have been?
Black and white.
Yeah, it's like a dog when he sees black and white, like Christopher Hitchens. Maybe he saw even grey only because he's less than. I mean, I'm going to say, but the idea is. Sorry, the next name. Sorry, Akhi.
Al-Khaliq.
Yes.
So basically, Al-Khaliq and Al-Bari, they are both somehow connected.
Yeah.
Al-Khaliq being translated that Allah SWT is a creator. He creates something out of nothing, or creates things out of example, or he creates something previously being created out of example. Yes. So he is generally the creator. Al-Bari, the originator, who start things or who originate something that does not exist, to bring it to existence.
Beautiful, excellent. I like that summary, and mashallah, you speak quite well for someone who knows 6 languages, huh? Pretty good, huh? But I was going to say that, it's absolutely right. And we looked at Al-Khaliq. Al-Khaliq is one of those things that, like everyone, when they associate the word God, they associate it with the Creator. They associate it with the Creator, Who is the Creator? What is the Creator? Yani, sometimes it boggles the mind that you can live in a world like this and you think there's no Creator. Yani, even just that on a simple level, like, you're not born like that. Honestly, you're not born like that. And the great works of Justin Barrett, where he says that every human being, even a child, can associate what he calls teleological function. Like the child, when he looks at something, what is that for? What is it for? Yani, what we ask, what is this mobile? What is it for? What is this chair? What's it for? What's this human being for? Why does the buck stop with the human being? The most menial and insignificant of inanimate objects, which can be used as a cursory, usage of a human being, ashtray or something, so that that has a function, but the human being himself does not. You've not dared to ask yourself, what's the reason for the creation of the human beings? The Khaliq, the Creator. Anyway, so this is good. The Bari, we had some fun with it, if you like, because we started reading different things. And what did we say about Al-Bari? Some additional things that you read.
I think Al-Bari, the originator, the difference with Khaliq is the originator, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, for example, created everything from water, and then he created the water itself. So he originated the water and he created the human being and all the existence from the water. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created human being from turab, from dust, from mud, and he created the mud itself. So he is the starter of something,
Inshallah.
and he created everything from nothing, and then he continuously creating everything. For example, human being, he created the nutfa, the human being originally, and then he continues creating it. He is khaliq, and he is the inventor. All that
Beautiful.
includes in al-bari. The al-khaliq itself can, the al-bari, the sifa al-bari can encompass the al-khaliq as well, and all other musawwir and every other asma al-husna. It's a wise and it's a very jame sifa.
Beautiful. And we also looked at some other meanings of it. Abdurrahman, do you remember any of them? Bari'ah. What did you say that the word can mean? So we talked about that it can be absolved of something. Like, so for example, bari'ah min al-marad or something. Like he has been absolved from his disease. And in the context of God, it means free of defects. So a lot of Allah's names has this idea that Allah, He is free from defects. And also the idea that He is the one who gives indhar or a'dhar and indhar, or the excuse maker. He gives excuses to people. So it should be that we give excuses to each other. Subhanallah. We should give excuses to each other, because that's one of the beautiful things. And we've so many hadiths of the Prophet Muhammad athar about how, you give husn al-dhan and so on like that with your brothers, and give excuses for your brother. And so that is really some of the meanings in terms of creation ex nihilo, the idea that Allah created from nothing. This is the majority opinion. Of course, there is some theological discussion. Ibn Taymiyyah believed in hawadith la wala. We're not going to talk about that too much, because it's something which is hamishi of the historical record. Not so many people believe in such a thing. And there's a hadith of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam which is quite explicit in this regard, which is kana Allah wa lam yakun shay'un ma'ahu wa kana 'arshuhu 'ala al-ma', which is that Allah was there and there was nothing with him, Allah, and His arsh was on the water. And of course, Ibn Taymiyyah has some Imran ibn Husayn's hadith, and he has some whole discussion about it, saying that the water was there, but what was there, because he believes in perpetual creation into the past, but or even creation ex materia and so on. But there are some caricatures of his opinion, even though it is something which is aberrational. Some people say that he believed in qidam al-alam. He didn't believe in qidam al-alam. He did not believe in the eternality of the universe. He believed that Allah created this thing and then this thing and this thing, and it goes back to infinity. Now you could say, well, wouldn't that mean that Allah created an infinite amount of things? And isn't that something impossible? The actual infinity in the real world? No, because he believed that these things were destroyed. So like he'd create one thing and the other thing get destroyed, and one thing, so there wouldn't be an actual infinity there in the real world in one place at one time. However, in terms of the amount of people that agreed with him on that view, it probably Ibn Qayyim, apart from that, it's not something which is in the Hanbali school or something. In fact, you have clear, athar from the Salaf saying that Allah created awwal man khalaq Allah al-qalam, for example, that the first thing that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created was the pen, for example. And you have athar of Umar al-Khattab, big scholars and companions and so on, saying stuff like that. All you have to do is go back to Noon wal qalami wa ma yasturun in tafsir of that particular thing of Ibn Kathir or something. And you'll see Ibn Kathir says that there's a difference of opinion on what was created first. Was it the arsh? Was it the qalam? Was it the ma? Was it this or that? But this idea of perpetual creation to the past is a theological issue which Ibn Taymiyyah has, said. With that, is there anything else? Any other names? With that, we will conclude. Jazakumullah khairan. It's been a very fantastic lesson. And inshallah, in the next one, and probably be the last one, we're going to be covering 33 names. Hopefully, I'm putting it out there just so that I can hold myself to account. If I can't do it, then we can't do it. But we've done a lot of names so far, and I think it's been very fantastic. And remember, this is not just an academic exercise, it's ibadah. Because Allah, the Prophet ﷺ said that, وَمَنْ أَحْصَاهَا دَخَلَ الْجَنَّةِ. Wassalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.